Well, basically, what we have is, and we've seen this with the national data, that a significant event like September 11th will show the spike, and the fact that particularly through the National Incident-Based Reporting System, you can get hour by hour data. Basically, when a crime is reported, they put the date, the time that it occurred, and so you can plot that over time. And these spikes don't tend to last very long. They tend to, after September 11th, there was an initial spike for a day or two, and then it declined like a sawtooth, within a couple of days. And I think it has a lot to do with crimes tend to behave according to a particular pattern. It's like if you have a certain number of calls in your office, like say you get 10 calls per day, every day, it's a similar pattern. It's only going to spike for a while if some significant event happens. As soon as that passes, the number of calls will go back to the normal rate. These events only tend to last for a short amount of time.
We saw after 9/11 that they did bounce around for the first 6 days or so, and then President Bush made a speech on September 17th urging tolerance. Conversely, 5 days after San Bernardino terrorist attack, President-elect Trump made a speech which was highly critical of Muslims, and we saw hate crimes spike up even more afterwards. What do you think that indicates about the statements of political leaders to affect hate crime patterns after a catalytic event results in a spike up?
I think this is it's important because it shows that context matters, and that you can make things worse or better. And I think that creating a situation where you're creating more fear is more likely to produce more hate crimes, because hate and fear and othering is a result of fear, basically. And what President Bush did was he went to the mosques and tried to alleviate the fears. And then we saw and there was a lot of publicity about this. And then we saw a decline right about the same time this happened.
What do you think will happen now with the country so divided? And what about counting categories that aren't officially included, like, for instance, attacks against conservatives and Trump supporters, which are occurring, but apparently to a lesser extent? What do you think is going to happen in the future, particularly with the splintering of our society, these divisions, and what appears to be a democratization of hate as different sides of the ideological spectrum become angry and scared of each other?
I think in criminology, there's a branch in criminology would say that hate crimes are about maintaining an unequal status. And they serve to reproduce a status, an unequal society. So therefore, marginalized groups, LGBT, African Americans, there's a historic pattern. And so hate crimes, particularly committed by people in the majority, whites, heterosexuals, they tend to reproduce the status quo. But what we're experiencing now is the opposite. Some of the opposite is happening. There's retribution against particular majority groups, and actually, quite honestly, the Wisconsin v. Mitchell was a case where the victim in that the Supreme Court case that upheld hate crime legislation was a white victim.
And we saw an increase in anti-white hate crimes, along with increases in other groups as well last year.
Okay, I'm not sure about that. But it makes sense. But again, some criminologists would argue that that's something different. That's not hate crime. But using the definitions we apply at the FBI, that and everybody has a race, everybody has a sexual orientation, everybody has a religion, even if it's atheist. So therefore, everybody's protected by hate crime laws.
Is there anything else that you'd like to tell us about your many years of experience in collecting data on hate crime, maybe how it varies from year to year, or what long-term trends may or may not be occurring? We seem to have seen an overall decline, but an increase in anti-Muslim, for instance. But now it looks like the atmospherics are different as we have a divided country and a new president coming in. Any speculation from what you've seen in the past that might be applicable?
Well, first of all, I think that if I have any point to make that I think that I can really, stand behind here is that the hate crime data, although there's an undercount, that it's a good measure because there's been significant events that have happened over the years, in the 25 years that it's been in existence, and it does show spikes. And so, even though it doesn't capture everything. And now with the National Incident-Based Reporting System, which is an incident-level system, they don't just get the count of hate crimes, but they get all the factors that go along with it. So you have victim and offender information, time of day, type of bias, and lots of variables that go along with it. So even though there's an undercount of hate crime, we can know a lot more about hate crimes, the nature of hate crimes in the United States because of the data. So I think with a nation divided, we're going to need this. We're going to need some sort of a barometer to help us, to look at the nature of hate crimes. And it'll help us with policy, it'll help us with programming, it'll help us just know more, reflect on what's happening in this country.
Do you think in the near future we'll be able to get law enforcement data analyzed more quickly than now, where we have to wait a year or so?
Yeah, this is work that's in progress. There's the National Academy of Science. National Academy of Science has a committee on crime reporting, and it's one of the issues. How can you get crime data out faster? So there's going to be recommendations made to the FBI about, the need for more timely crime statistics. So we have the technology today that we can do a better job of getting crime data out. And particularly, this center, your center, does a really good job of estimating what the FBI is going to produce. I mean, you've been tested. You have methods that you can find out quickly within an acceptable range of whether there's a spike or not. So I think your center does really a terrific job of getting crime data out faster than the FBI does.
Well, the Center for the Study of Hate and Extremism thanks you for being on our advisory board and being such an important part of it. And kudos to West Virginia University for allowing us to borrow you from time to time. Dr. Jim Nolan, thank you so much for speaking to us today.
Thank you, Brian.